Holy shit, CSGO tips number 11. Okay, yeah. E-League Major is about to happen, or they did the qualifiers for the top 8. Mirage was played a lot on the multiple days slash weeks of games, so I figured I could do a T-side mid tips video on Mirage. First things first is the opening of going towards mid. You have really two options. One is to peek window with an op, like this. You know, just dry peek, like nothing special. More commonly, what you'll see is people smoking top mid like that. So you want to aim at the right side of the antenna on top of this trash can. There is another version of the smoke that is somewhere around here, but I don't actually know that one offhand. Either way, however you smoke it, you want it to land like something like that along this little ridge here, like this ridge here. You want it to be like that so that you can cross without being seen from window, and so that the crossing from connector is very easy. The shot from the upper connector is very hard. And then you want to get to mid boxes. The important thing to note when you smoke top mid is that you will not see people go into underpass, because of not only one, the time it takes for the smoke to pop, and two, the fact that you want to wait for the smoke to pop before crossing, and you might want to wait for a preemptive op shot from window. All of that time means that someone can creep underpass very quickly, which means if you smoke top mid and don't get that early peek off of your spawn, you have to know that your underpass is not clear, and anyone playing B apps needs to know that underpass is a threat. So if you do smoke top mid, make sure your B players or your apartment players know that underpass is not clear, and they should take the time to clear it later in the round. While you are crossing top mid, you also want to be careful of people hiding under the smoke or at bottom connector. So you want to worry about this angle here, and then right here, this angle. These are the two main angles that people will try to hold if they're not pushing you, but if they're pushing you, you'll probably see them around here, like right here. And that's when you want to get ready for the kill. If you're really scared, as the top mid smoke pops, if you have a nade, you can throw a nade. If you have a flash, you can throw a flash. When you actually do get to mid boxes, you can either smoke or molly window. Now, you definitely want to do one of these two things because of how strong of a position window is. Oppers will usually hold this right away, and if this is smoked off, they'll either hold the cat cross here or hold something at mid boxes. So you want to be careful of the opper, especially when he's not being pressured at all. An unpressured opper is probably your biggest threat when you're playing mid. So a lot of pros will hug the back wall here, aim at the middle of this antenna, and run and throw either a Molotov or a smoke. So you can see that Molotov lands in there, and that smoke goes there. Smoke landed a little awkwardly because of the molly, but more often than not, it will land along this part of the wall here, or part of the floor. So I'll throw that again in a bit. Whichever one you do, just make sure that once you do have whatever you throw, once it pops, now is when you want to be careful for re-aggression from connector and people peeking cat. The timing works out so that people can post up here by the time you get to mid boxes, or even before you get to mid boxes, so you definitely want to worry about that. And cat players, what they'll usually do is come up here, they'll either run or walk, listen for apps, and then help mid, either by peeking like this, flashing over a window, or something of the like. There's not too much you can really do about the player cat, and burning utility too fast can be detrimental if your team is going for a slow default. However, you can stop people from coming and peeking you connector if you get on this little step here, aim at the top of this line right here, and a little bit up, like that. It takes a little bit of practice to kind of figure out about where you should stand and about where you should aim, but regardless, you want the molly to land on this part of the ledge here. CTs will counter this by throwing a smoke like this to try to one-way you. This angle you should not worry about too much if you have your top mid smoke, because it'll land somewhere there and that doesn't really do anything. But you definitely want this Molotov first, and then listen for the smoke connector. This smoke, well, assuming it bounced properly, is actually a one-way. Although, if it doesn't land perfectly at the right elevation, you can actually spot this. More often than not, it's a one-way, so you just want to be careful about that. There's also a one-way right here, so if you're coming out underpass, you want to worry about this angle here, so you could always pre-fire. I think it's right here. Generally, what people will do is, as the window smoke is still there, like as it's still out, if you have teammates underpass, what they'll usually do is come up connector and clear close, either this side or if they're coming from mid, this side. And they'll smoke top connector. Now, sometimes you'll see players do a set smoke from either spawn or mid boxes. I don't actually know these smokes offhand anymore, but you can just very simply lob one off like that, or just something like this. Any freehand smoke really will do the job, as long as you make it land on top of the connector like this. Avoid any smokes that land here, because this gives a one-way for people connector. So this is an angle here. I see a lot of players, like in matchmaking or in pugs, they'll do this connector smoke, something along the lines of that. The problem with this is that it doesn't land high enough for it to actually cover too much. So I can see pretty decently over the smoke, so I can see you crossing cat. I think if I sit somewhere around here, I can actually see into cat, so I can very easily just spray down cat and get a free kill. So I do not recommend smoking connector from spawn. It does not land high enough for you to get cover. Smoke top connector, clear this. This should be clear if you haven't cleared it already. Clear behind the box, because some people can crouch like that. And from there, it really depends on what your team wants to do. If you want to take cat control rather than connector, you can by having a teammate flash for you, something like that. You know, something along the lines of this to pop flash ladder. I don't actually know what their set is, but you have players come up cat, you come here, clear all of this. Now you have really good control of mid, and with this control of mid, you can do really whatever it is you want. You can do a split onto B or A, depending on how you smoke it off. You can completely fall off of mid and just execute towards a site. You could do everything I mentioned really quickly, or if you're playing matchmaking or a pug, you can do some duo/solo strats that involve usually two people. It's pretty hard to adapt if you only have one, but I'm gonna show those off here. So if you want a fast connector rush, basically you're gonna come up connector really fast and try to pick this guy off at triple who doesn't expect you there. So you're gonna need two people, of course. again, this is usually a duo strat. You want one person to smoke top mid. The other person is going to be going straight to mid, waiting for the smoke to pop. And he's going to molly window. And then smoke cat off. While staying above the smoke, you don't want to dip down here to smoke cat. You want to smoke cat off, and then you can jump through. Windows should be mollied, so people won't be peeking you down here. And from here, you just clear triple sight, specifically these angles right here, especially ninja, and then you want to clear stairs. If you do this really quickly and don't fail the Molotov like I usually do, you can actually pick someone off triple really easily. You just get a free 2-tap. And then you can come up and clear stairs. There's very commonly a person stairs either here or here. And from there, you just have to worry about jungle. But after getting 2 picks at A, you really want to look at where your teammates are and call out you got 2 picks A or 1 pick A so that your team can kind of work off of that. Now, if you wanted to do this solo, you can cut the top mid smoke from your teammate. The only problem is that you have to take a 50-50 that the upper window or connector is gonna miss. And that's not really something you want to take, but if you're solo and no one knows how to do a top mid smoke, then that might be your only option. Alternatively, you could throw your own top mid smoke, molly window, and as you come down, throw a flash off the wall to flash cat. That did not land as hard as I thought. Wow, okay. That's another idea, however, that flash can usually be avoided pretty easily, and by the time the cat player avoids it, they'll see you coming up right here. But this is a risk you take if you're doing it solo. Alternatively, instead of rushing connector, you can actually rush cat really fast. And if you want to set this up, again, this is a duo strat, and you want your team to go B apartments. But either way, this is a good strat to do to pick the guy off of cat really fast. Again, you want this top mid smoke. And instead of smoking connector, you want to smoke the cat cross. So you can freehand this one by aiming somewhere to the right of the antenna, just like that window molly, except at the ground. Right, you want something like this. Connector, you want connector to be mollied, if possible. So, like that molly we talked about before. I think that's too high. Yep. You want that molly that I mentioned before, so that people can't really pick you from here. The smoke should land somewhere like this. It's gonna cover people, the vision from connector. That's a little too close. It's gonna cover vision from connector so that people can't really just spot you like this. And people holding window are gonna have to hit this shot here. Now what you could do is have another person molly window. And if you're gonna molly window, you want it to land more to your left, the T's left, so that they can't hold this angle here. But either way, you just want to come up cat really fast and just clear ladder, and then swing out onto B and get ready to fight. This is a little more risky, especially if you know they don't like playing up cat, which is uncommon. And you're gonna have to worry about the B apartments player, but your team should be pushing B. If your team's not pushing B apartments, then this gets a little iffy. You might want to just instead get into ladder and make your presence known so that the window player will get kind of scared and potentially pushed off of the angle. But anyway, I hope this video was useful. Hopefully I can get more CSGO tips out without revealing all of my secrets, but that's okay.